All right, let's talk about a huge gap in American higher education, one we really need to get our heads around. The Hispanic population is a massive and growing part of the country, but when you look at the highest levels of academia, they're just not there in the same numbers. So today, we're asking why. Why are so few Hispanics earning PhDs? Now, everything we're about to dive into is grounded in the incredible work of Dr. Ronnie A. Rodas. He was deeply concerned about this very question, so he conducted this powerful meta-analysis, pulling together over 100 different scholarly sources to really get to the heart of the issue. So we're not just looking at one study, we're getting the big picture that all the research paints. So let's start with a foundational fact, just to set the stage. Right now, people of Hispanic descent make up nearly 1/5 of the entire U.S. population. We're talking about a significant, vibrant, and rapidly growing part of the country. But, and this is a big but, when we look at who's actually earning those new doctoral degrees, that number just plummets, all the way down to just 7%. That is a major disconnect between the population and academic representation. So let's start peeling back the layers and figure out why this gap even exists. The research is crystal clear on one thing. This is not about a lack of ambition or talent, not at all. So what's the real story behind these numbers? Come on, let's follow the evidence and investigate what's really going on. Our investigation starts with the most common suspects, right? The barriers that are often the easiest to see: money and a simple, straightforward lack of information. Okay, now this chart is really fascinating because it lays out the top culprits from Dr. Rodas's analysis. Across all those sources, financial constraints are the #1 barrier, showing up in a massive 74% of the research. But look at how close those other two are. Information and mentoring gaps are right behind. This tells you it's not three separate problems. It's a tangled web where one issue feeds right into the others. And here is a perfect example of that information gap in action. So many potential students and their families think a PhD means you're going to take on a mountain of debt. But the reality? Most top-tier doctoral programs are actually fully funded. They don't just waive your tuition, they give you a stipend to live on. Just that one piece of missing information can stop a brilliant student dead in their tracks before they even start. But the story doesn't stop with money and info packets, no way. To truly get what's happening, we have to look past the spreadsheets and into the stuff that's harder to see, the powerful social and cultural factors that shape these huge life decisions. Academia has its own culture, its own secret handshake, its own unwritten rules. Sociologists have a name for this: cultural capital. It's all that inherited knowledge about how to navigate the system, knowing who to talk to, what questions to ask. And if you're the first in your family to go to college, let alone even think about a PhD, you're basically playing the game without knowing all the rules. But we have to flip that script. And this part is so important. The research also highlights something called community cultural wealth. This idea shows the incredible assets that students from Hispanic communities bring with them. Things like resilience, incredible family support, and linguistic skills. So the problem isn't a lack of something in the students. It's that the institutions often don't even recognize or value this kind of wealth. And this quote from the research, man, it just gets right to the heart of the conflict. For so many graduates, there's this really strong cultural expectation to start earning money and help support the family right away. When that's the reality, choosing to spend another 5, 6, 7 years in a low-stipend PhD program can feel, well, it can feel less like a smart investment and more like a selfish, even irresponsible choice. All right, our investigation now takes us inside the university walls themselves, because the academic environment, it can either be a launchpad that shoots you to success or just another massive hurdle to overcome. The data shows over and over again that many Hispanic doctoral students feel this deep sense of isolation. I mean, just imagine being the only person who looks like you in a classroom or a lab. The research is filled with stories of tokenism, of dealing with microaggressions, and a huge lack of faculty mentors who actually get their lived experience. That kind of climate can make it incredibly tough to thrive. And here is a critical moment of gatekeeping. We know for a fact that getting involved in undergraduate research is one of the biggest predictors of whether a student goes on to pursue a PhD. But as Dr. Rodas's research shows, these opportunities aren't always available to everyone equally. And when that door is closed, the whole pipeline to a PhD can get cut off before it even really begins. So, after looking at all this evidence, what's the verdict? What can we conclude? And maybe the most important question of all, Why does closing this gap matter for every single one of us? Well, the conclusion from the research is pretty much undeniable. There's no single culprit here. It's not just about money or just about mentoring or just about culture. It is a complex, interconnected system of barriers that all reinforce each other at every single step of the way. And this slide illustrates the consequences perfectly. It's a cycle that just feeds itself. See, fewer Hispanic PhDs means you get less diverse faculty, which means you have fewer mentors for the next generation. That then leads to research agendas that don't reflect the priorities of a huge chunk of the population. And ultimately, it limits Hispanic leadership and perspective in every single field from industry to policy. So we end with this question, because this isn't just an issue of fairness, it's an issue of national potential. When you have a system that filters out so much incredible talent before it even has a chance to shine, you have to stop and ask, how many breakthroughs, how many brilliant ideas, and how much transformative leadership are we as a whole society just leaving on the table?